up, and welcome to Woodward Heavyweights Live on WoodSports.com. I'm Easy, joined by my guy Spin Mo Rex.
What up, though?
Young Chris, Nicholas Koloff, a.k.a. Detroit Mario, and we're also joined by Matt Hamilton from FanDuel's Up and Adams, formerly of Good Morning Football. This guy I want to talk to for a long time. He used to give out straight money bets all the time, every morning on Thursdays. Matt, how you been, man? It's finally nice to get you on the show.
What's up, guys? Appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man, we've been building this one up for a while, since before the Lions won their freaking playoff game.
Yeah.
How's that been from the outsider's perspective? Like, are we – obviously we're fans of our team here, but, like, is it real deal outside? Like, are people actually giving respect to Detroit Lions outside Detroit?
Yeah, I do feel like it's finally gotten there. I think this past season, showed people that this team is for real. It's not just about hype. It's not just on paper. They can get it done on the field. And I mean, the way that Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes have completely changed the culture there has been remarkable to watch.
And is the narrative kind of changing of the Lions? Like, have you know, like the past couple of years, they've been the sweetheart, the darling, they're so cute. They were a poverty franchise for so long, and now they're actually good. Now is it changing to like, all right, this is a team we got to beat? We saw Mike Greenberg say their Super Bowl window's closed. I feel like they're kind of changing the narrative now to a villain arc for the Lions.
Yeah, I think it absolutely has changed. And the way that the NFC Championship game went down obviously left a little bit of a bad taste in people's mouths. But with Dan Campbell and the way he's going to use that as motivation, I don't think it was just one kind of fun, magical season. I think they're going to come back with a vengeance this year. I really do.
Now, obviously, report here on both Michigan and our Detroit Lions. I see is that Giants helmet behind you on your left?
It is a Giants helmet. I also have my, you guys will enjoy this. This is my locker name. I was working in the Lions scouting department back in 2013.
You work in the Lions scouting department?
Yeah.
Did I skip over what? Bro.
Yeah, it was I worked under Sheldon White there when Martin Mayhew was GM. So it's been fun to see, too, from that perspective, just how the organization has continued to grow since and kind of overcome some of those obstacles that were there when I was there.
Yeah, so you know what it feels like then, like just the underdog story right now that we're going through. And now, again, hopefully to be something, I guess, that we already established, like more respectable. What do you think they need to add to kind of like continue that trajectory and maybe even win a Super Bowl or something crazy like that?
Yeah, that's the thing. You look at the roster, and it's not like there's some glaring hole that really needs to be filled. I mean, I think looking at this draft, you'd like to see them add a corner, add to the secondary a little bit. I would love to see them add some more depth at pass rusher. Personally, I would love to see Darius Robinson, the sentimentality of it, being a Detroit kid, being in attendance at the draft, for him to get his name called by the Lions, I think would be something really special. I've watched him closely. I was a student coach at Mizzou. I still follow Mizzou closely. I think he's an absolute dog. And the fact that he can play, he's not just an edge rusher. You can move him inside too. He's so versatile. I think he would be a great fit for this Aaron Glenn defense. But really, that's the thing. I think this team is so well built that they don't need to add much to be right back in contention.
Yeah, and I wanted to ask, too, because you also said secondary. I feel like where we're drafting currently right now at 29 is not really – I don't think that highly of this year's cornerback class. I think there's some guys that are good, just not in years past. Is there anyone like a Kool-Aid McKinstry that you could still see them grabbing at 29 that holds that kind of BPA value Brad Holmes sticks to?
Yeah, I think Kool-Aid, that was the name I had in mind. I think he would be perfect in that spot. And you're right. There's not that like shutdown corner in this class, but there's depth there. And I think a guy like Kool-Aid, if he falls to that spot, I think he would be a tremendous pickup.
And looking at what Brad Holmes likes to do in the draft, we've seen him move up, we've seen him move down, all of it in the first round. What would you say if you had to bet on it of him either moving up or moving down in the first round, which would make more sense to you?
That's a great question. I think moving up, because as I said, I think this team is so close. If there's a piece that he feels like is going to push them over the edge, that's kind of sliding down the board. I think we see him get aggressive and try to move up because it's not, some teams are in a position where, you're not really that close. You want to accumulate assets and you need to round out the roster. That's not the Lions. They're really one or two pieces could make the difference in this team being in the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl next year.
Matt, we got a little bit of a blast from the past today. Detroit Lions will start donning those black jerseys again. I was kind of talking about, like, he said they were villain earlier. I think we're finally cool enough and good enough to wear black jerseys. Before it wasn't the case as much. But I guess going back to the past real quick, now that I know you worked with the Mayhew camp, and I know people probably don't want to hear this, but that Eric Ebron stuff, were you there when all that went down? What were like some of the rumblings for him, like heading in that situation?
Yeah, so Ebron was right after me, but I have to comment on the black jerseys. I'm so excited that they're coming back. We actually had Calvin Johnson on the show in August, and we were showing some of his old highlights, and Kay stopped him and was like, we have to talk about the black jerseys. Like, are they making a comeback? And he was all for it. I'd like to think we played a little piece in like reminding the Lions, hey, like this is a good idea to bring these back, but I'm excited to see them take it's this this year.
Hell yeah. Don't even talk about Ebron if you weren't there for that.
Yeah.
I wish you were. Maybe it would have happened.
It's just an amazing thing going on, and like Detroit right now is kind of the center of the football world, where you look at, they have this big release, they get to their first NFC championship game in over 30 years, and now they have the NFL draft in a week in the city of Detroit. They're putting up signs that look like they're supposed to be Hollywood signs, but they're Detroit-ish Hollywood signs. Like,
I saw that.
yeah. But, okay, what is your opinion on the sign, and then how do you feel about Detroit kind of being the center of the football world right now?
I mean, the sign. We saw the rendering of what it was supposed to look like. It looked like it was going to be awesome, and the finished product was nothing like it. So
yeah.
I think they're gonna have to rectify that mistake at some point. But I am excited. I mean, it is really exciting to see Detroit get center stage here, get the spotlight it deserves. It is such an incredible football city, and I love this era that we're in, where the Lions are relevant and are a real contender.
So, former scout, who's some of your favorite gems in this year's draft class?
Oh man, where do I start?
Yeah, there's a lot.
So, yeah, overall, I just want this is such a deep draft class, especially the O-line group, the wide receiver group. There are so many good players. I love it. First round, I think Rome Odunze is going to be an absolute steal for someone if he's the third receiver off the board. But even second, third round, I mean, there are guys, Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, who's just an absolute beast after the catch. I love him. Xavier Worthy, I think, it's funny because people, you see the record-setting 40 time and people think he's just a speed guy, but he's a legit route runner, can make catches over the middle. I think he's going to be a really good, well-rounded player, and not just a flash in the pan type guy. But yeah, this draft is going to be a really fun one. I think we haven't had a draft that's this loaded and this deep, I think, in a little while, so it's going to be fun.
And the Lions have been talking to multiple receivers. They've had some of their top 30 meetings with guys like Xavier Leggett, with guys like Brian Thomas Jr., and even Roman Wilson out of Michigan, who obviously we have a lot of Michigan fans on the broad. I'm a Spartan dog myself, so I don't buy too much into the hype. But Roman Wilson, is this a legitimate guy that could sneak into the first round here of the NFL draft?
It's hard for me to see him first round, but I think second round, I think is likely. And I mean, he's a tremendous playmaker. I am also a big fan of Leggett. There's the concern that it only happened really in 1 year for him, but I think it just, sometimes it just takes a little bit for it to click for some guys. And you see the athletic profile with him is off the charts. That 4.39 40 at his size is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think, I think either one of those guys, I think either one of those guys in the second round, that's somebody I could see them moving up for too. If they want to take a receiver like that, I think they go defense probably in the first round, but if they like those receivers, I could see them making a move up in the second.
Yeah, we actually have that topic for later in our show. We ranked our top 10 guys outside of the big three at the wide receiver position. But on my drive to the studio, I was thinking, I kind of remake my list because I totally forgot about the new hip drop rule. What are your expectations for that? The way that's going to change the game moving forward? Maybe even some of the guys you draft now.
Yeah, I am interested to see exactly how that goes because it sounds like it's going to be more of a fine thing at first versus a flag on the field. I'm not a fan of the rule personally because I think it's really hard to define and enforce, and it mostly happens when guys are just trying to make tackles on ball carriers that are bigger than them and prevent them from scoring. So I think it's a really slippery slope. I don't know that you change your draft strategy based on it because I'm not sure it's something that is going to be super enforceable and really stick around. I think it could be one of these things that we see, for a year, like the pass interference challenges that we saw a couple of years ago. So I don't know if you let it really affect your strategy too much.
And another big rule change that the NFL had was the kickoff situation and how they're going to kind of that XFL style kickoff, which almost eliminates the onside kick aspect from the entire game. But I like this rule because last year was the highest touchback percentage in the history of the NFL. What are your thoughts about the new kickoff situation with the NFL?
Yeah, I love seeing that they're going to try it. I'm a little surprised it wasn't one of those things where it's just let's try for the preseason this year, see how it goes, and then look at instituting it from there. Because what's going to be interesting is, we saw it on the XFL level and it was cool and it worked. When you do it with higher caliber athletes, like, are we going to start seeing way more kickoff return touchdowns and it become, we want to see kickoff return touchdowns back in the game for sure, but we don't want to see it skewed, right? Where we're seeing, 2 kickoff return touchdowns per game, that becomes kind of problematic. So I'm a little surprised they didn't want to give it a trial run first, but I'm excited to see what it looks like. And I'm positive on it until we see that it's a problem.
Yeah.
Matt, real quick before we go, I asked the New York thing because there's a lot of rumors about those guys jumping up and grabbing J.J. McCarthy. Not jumping up even, but staying put and grabbing J.J. McCarthy. Do you see that as a realistic situation? I feel like it'd be insane to pay Daniel Jones, keep him, so that 40 million hits, and then you draft a quarterback. If I'm an owner, I'm firing that GM. Like, why am I paying this guy $40 million?
I'm 100% with you on that. And I think there are a lot of Giant fans that want to see them take a quarterback in the first round, but again, you're just putting him into a bad situation because they don't have a number 1 wide receiver still. I would like to see them use that first round pick to add a weapon, see what Daniel Jones can do with a legit number 1 wide receiver, which he's never had there. We've seen him even lead the team to the playoffs without that. Give him a number 1 wide receiver, and then there are going to be some quarterbacks with some real potential in the second round. Take one of those guys in the second round. So that if Daniel doesn't work out, you do have another younger option you could go to, a guy like Joe Milton, a guy like Spencer Rattler, who has some real ability. But again, if you're just drafting a quarterback in the first round, if you're giving up assets to trade up and draft a quarterback in the first round, you just put him in a situation that's set up for failure. Especially now, not only do you not have a number 1 wide receiver, you don't have Saquon either.
Oh so my, that's the other part too.
There's got to be playmakers on that offense for anybody to have success.
Imagine trading up, drafting a quarterback. The best thing that helps you on quarterback is sometimes the running game. You let Saquon Barkley
Hey, you got Darren Waller.
And then you let this $40 million cap.
And he might retire. So
yeah.
It's so crazy. Man.
Before we let you go, I'll let you talk about the side of the ball with the Giants that looks pretty damn good, and that's the defense.
That's right.
With that, I think it is one of, if not the best defensive lines in football. You added Brian Burns, you got Sexy Dexy, you got Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side. What are your expectations for that defensive line for the Giants?
Yeah, I think it could be the scariest front seven in football with what they have now. That Brian Burns move, I think, definitely took some of the sting out of losing Saquon for Giants fans to have that happen later that afternoon. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to find a better speed rush and athletic tandem on the edge than Thibodeau and Brian Burns right now.
Actually, I got another question real quick pertaining to defensive lines. Your show is actually pretty close to our new defensive lineman, DJ Reader. You guys had him on there a few times too. One, I've been kind of hyping up Lee McNeil with that signing, thinking that he's going to have a breakout year now. What has been your takeaway from the DJ Reader signing, and is he just as excited behind the scenes as he is, to the media?
Yeah, he really is, and that's somebody that we've gotten to know pretty well over the last couple of years. We did our show at Bengals camp last year, and he sat down with us for a while. he's a guy not only on the field with what he can do. I think he makes everybody on the D line better with the way he's able to eat up blockers. And, you know, he also makes plays himself sometimes, but he's a space eater. He's the type of guy that's going to get those favorable matchups for the other guys on the line. But he's a guy you want in the locker room. He is a huge personality, one of the most likable people you'll be around. And anytime you can add a guy like that to the mix, it's a huge, huge win for a team. So I'm excited to see what he can do with the Lions.
Well, Matt, we've been chasing you for a few years now. It was nice to finally get you on. It's a huge win for myself. I appreciate you joining us. Anything you'd like to plug before we let you get going?
Thank you guys so much for having me. If you want to watch Up and Adams on FanDuel TV, on our YouTube stream, on Max, it's on at 11 a.m. Eastern every day live. It goes up on Max at 2 p.m. Eastern every day. Would appreciate you guys checking it out. And again, thank you guys so much for having me.
Thank you, man.
Thanks,
We appreciate
Matt.
it.
You, brother.
It's awesome. We're definitely got to have you on again.
Sounds good. I'd be happy to.
Post-draft.
Post-draft, yeah. We'll see how that works.
Definitely.
Appreciate you, man. That was
Take
awesome.
care, guys.
I actually knew Matt was a former. I forgot.
Yeah.
So I think I messaged him about it. I feel horrible about that.
That's
but
awesome.
Still, I'm glad to finally have him on. Matt's awesome.
Oh, yeah. And he doesn't have anything to do with the Ebron pick. So you guys in the chat,
Yes.
he did hands off. He wasn't the Ebron guy. He wasn't a part of
news.
that. He's smart enough to know Aaron Donald was the pick.